the thing about Shai, one is he's like almost never rattled and never looks frazzled at any point or rushed or things like that. There's a calmness with him that I think sort of spreads out to his teammates as well in a lot of instances. Like that's the superpower people don't see that he has. And I think it's huge across the board. Look, he's got just about everything in his game. I think he could be a better 3-point shooter off the dribble and things like that. And that might come down the road. But the way he's able to just constantly get to his spots is impressive. And he almost always makes the right read in those instances. Like this is a phenomenal run we're seeing from him over really the past 2 seasons. And I think what you're seeing it kind of culminate now of like he's reaching the peaks of where he's going to be as a player. And yeah, like it doesn't surprise me that he's in with those guys with those numbers. Like it's not shocking to me because he's that type of level player. This is, if somebody wants to dig, and God bless you if you do, on one of the Athletic podcasts with Dave Dufour and Seth Partnow, I was giving the Thunder a hard time for tanking at that point. And both those guys were like, hey, like, we don't think Shai's a guy you can build around. Like, no, Shai is definitely a guy you can build around. Now it's like, it's something where you felt this coming for a long time. People with the Clippers felt this coming, and thought he could be that kind of special player with that regards. I still think they made the right move in trading for Paul George. At the time, that was a move you had to make and all that blah, 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 blah stuff. And yeah, hindsight's 2020. But this felt like this could have been this kid's. Whether he would have got there is a whole different story. He's gotten there now, so everybody looks really smart.
Right.
Who thought that? But it's, there's an element of like, this was there. You could kind of see the seeds in him and how good he could be. And so, like, to me, I'm not surprised by it. Like, this is just who he is as a ball player, and we've been seeing it come for a while.
I'm glad you brought up that point with the Clippers too, because I remember talking. I was in LA. I was living in California at the time, as you know, and I was in LA at the time for, I guess this would have been preseason, Shai's rookie year, and I remember talking with a couple people from the Clippers while I was there, and they were like, "Hey, this Shai Gilgeous-Alexander kid is going to be a star." I'm like, "A star? Like the guy you just drafted at whatever 12, wherever he was picked." A star? That's pretty strong language. And they're like, yeah, he's gonna be a star. And I was like, okay. And I just walked away. I'm like, they're pretty high on the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander kid, and they're obvious. He was picked 11th. I had to look it up. They're really high on this guy, and I don't really know why, And they were right. They were right at the time. And they saw it coming, which makes you appreciate the level of decision, how hard that decision was to trade him for Paul George in the first place. It makes you really appreciate. It wasn't like he was a throw-in, like, oh, yeah, you can have our young guy in the picks. It was, we really have to do this to get Kawhi. Like, that was what it was. So,
right.
I don't know where I ultimately, I don't know when I had the aha moment for me personally with Shai. I even remember, I think it was last year, saying, hey, if that's the best year Shai ever has, that'll be pretty good. Where he finished whatever.
If this is his plateau, Wes, right, that's a pretty damn good ball player.
What did he finish, like third in MVP or something? I was like, yeah, this might be the best Shai ever gets, and that's going to be just fine. And I think you could still. And there were even people in Oklahoma City saying, is Chet Holmgren eventually going to be the best player on the team and stuff like that? And he just took another level. He took another level, and it was specific to the playmaking. I think that's really where he took that next step. You mentioned the poise with him too, and I think that's the part that stands out to me about Shai so much in this series, really, if you think about it, Haliburton has kind of the same thing. It's a little bit different in the way they carry themselves, obviously, but the Pacers never feel like they're out of it, right? And they have, the resume to prove it. But both of these point guards they're not traditional point guards in the sense that they're not like Isaiah Thomas, like, passing and doing that kind of thing, but they're traditional point guards in the sense that it feels like everything radiates from them for their teams, right? Like their teams take on their personality. I think that's really cool. That's a cool part about these finals.
Yeah, and I think there's a level of that calmness that comes, through. Like, you just think about the fact the Pacers have had so many comebacks already. You know, I think I think now they're 5-4 in games where they're down 15 in the playoffs. Like, first off, that's an absolutely
That's
absurd
insane.
number. It's absolutely absurd. But like, that's the confidence thing that you're getting from him. You know, there's a lot of people who don't like Haliburton, think he's a front runner because he only talks trash when he's up. Sure, that's fine, but there's a reason why. It's because he's getting up. He's going to get up. Like, he's also not down when they're getting killed, because there's a confidence level. We're just going to keep coming. We're going to keep coming, and we're going to keep coming. We saw that in game one. You know, we had a flash of it in game two, but we saw that in game one, where the Thunder could never really get the lead more than 15, right? They would get it to 15, the Pacers would go the tiniest of, like, a little, just 2-possession 6-0 run situation. You know, like, they score, they get a stop, and then they score it again, and then it's like, okay, we're back to 10 or whatnot. And the way they kind of slowly kind of continue that in game, there was a moment in game two where the Thunder went up 20 and the Pacers call a timeout and then go on a 10-0 run, cut the lead to 10. And that's where I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Now, to the Thunder's credit, you know, they squashed the run right then and there, then never looked back after that. But like, that's what you're getting from Tyrese, thinking, I'm always in these games. We're never out of it. And that's a key component there.
My favorite play from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in game two was the double pump layup thing. And I'm not even sure how to describe it. It was like in the second quarter, and it looks like it's about to be a runner, and then he just double pumps it and ends up with this layup. He had that, and then he had the pump reverse layup in the sidelines out of bounds play. And it's when he does those kinds of things that you're reminded about how special this guy is, because certain players just have shots that nobody else has for whatever reason, their height, their athleticism, their frame, whatever it is. And it feels like Shai has 8 of these shots in his bag that nobody else has it, and never looks the same. Only he could pull off these shots. And I think it's so fun to see him in these finals too, because I think people are now starting to say, oh, wow. Like, if you're watching these finals, like, this guy is just different. This is the closest thing I could think of is 2006 Dwayne Wade, where people are like, oh, wow, this is different than the way everybody else does it. And it was sort of his coming out party while also being crowned a champion, not at the risk of doing this too prematurely for the Thunder and SGA, but we both know how we think this thing is going. So, yeah, it's been a joy to watch.